Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas. And today I have with me Jon Broder, who I met at InsurTech Connect last year, towards the end, but somehow you were memorable enough that I do remember this specific conversation after I met several hundred people, basically. And Jonathan, thank you for joining me today. First of all, Happy New Year.
Yeah, likewise, of course.
So the more I learned about Jonathan, the more that I look at your LinkedIn before we start recording, basically, Jonathan is a tech enthusiast lawyer, would be a way to put it.
Yeah.
Trying to disrupt the way that the legal side of claims is handled in a very interesting way through a couple of different efforts. So somehow you've launched more than one company in the legal tech space, all of them kind of playing within insurance, and all trying for a single mission. So anyway, we always let the guest give the elevator pitch, and in your case, I think, like, how did being a lawyer lead you to do what you're doing, and what is it that you're doing?
I mean, what led me to all this is that I had no interest actually in being a lawyer. I mean, you know, and this kind of goes into what the story I always tell about my companies is that, you know, I always found it so inefficient, you know, the depositions, discovery. You know, if you're a problem solver, then you probably should not be a lawyer, right? Because it's all about the billable hour. It's not about actually solving the problem. And that's just not how my mind works. It's not how I think. And, you know, I'm always like, you know, how can I find a solution quicker, faster, and more efficiently, which is the antithesis of being a lawyer. So, you know, I only practiced for a couple of years. I did, you know, I did do contingency work, not personal injury. I actually did securities litigation. Then I was a legal recruiter for several years. And then, like you said, I started my first company in 2010, which is the My Motion Calendar and Vortex Legal companies. They're the same, just different brands, which, you know, we've got a network of 11,000 lawyers across the country that attend hearings, conduct depositions, and provide contract work, do contract work for lawyers, law firms, and corporate legal departments. So, you know, that's kind of how I got started in all this.
Okay. So Vortex was kind of deeply technical, right? And then you move on to what you are at ITC for, right? Which is Zip Claims / settle for free. So
when you met me at InsurTech Connect, I've been working on Zip Claims and Settle for Free for almost 3 years. So it's been a long time. Obviously, the pandemic delayed that, and then getting through the regulatory issues was frankly, a whole nother year. And the concept there is, how do we disrupt personal injury lawyers, right? They're the ones that kind of control everything, right? Because the more they advertise, are my emails popping up on this? I should probably close.
No, I can't see your screen, only you.
Oh, that's good. Okay. I mean, there's nothing bad to see. I just want to make sure that it's not.
Yeah, no, I can only see you.
Okay, sorry about that.
So personal injury lawyers.
Right. So they're the ones that control all of this, right? So I would go to all of these conferences. I've worked with insurance companies for years, and you go to all these conferences and they're like, you know, how can we control or reduce legal spend? You know, legal spend is huge. You know, Chubb spends $3 billion a year on legal.
It's incredible.
You know, every major carrier spends billions of dollars. And, you know, a lot of them are trying to come up with small ways, you know, and all of those things can add up to something. But I kind of said, hey, what is the systematic issue going on here? And how could we change it to really make huge, meaningful impact, right? And that's when I saw, like, hey, it's not driven by the insurance companies. It's driven by the personal injury lawyers. The more they advertise, the more cases they get, the more they file, it just floods the system. And so that's kind of what I said. I said, okay, how can we build a flow and an alternative to litigation, an alternative to courts that works, that gives everybody the opportunity to examine the case and hopefully settle it? Because again, 96% of cases settle. We all know that, so why are we, again, me being not lawyer minded, but efficiency driven, it's like, why are we trying to do this and do it this way? It makes no sense. So the concept is, that we are advertising. We are right now advertising in Florida on billboards and radio and internet and all these different places, saying, hey, here's an alternative to hiring a personal injury lawyer, paying 30 to 40% plus costs, which is very expensive. And, saying, hey, come to our platform, which is, ZipClaims. And we're going to use data analytics as well as our experience as lawyers and as claims professionals to say, hey, here's a reasonable range of what your case is worth, right? That should sound a lot like a CarMax or something like that, right? Kelley Blue Book, something like that. And that's the goal. It's, there's got to be better, more efficient ways to do it. And that's what we're setting out to do.
So basically you offer to the injured party,
yep,
don't pay 30 to 40% of your settlement to a lawyer that's the reality is there, what you're paying for mostly is marketing, not lawyering, right? What you're trying to buy is expertise in how much your claim is worth. We can get you that expertise,
right?
Basically,
and we can do it faster, right? Especially with COVID, like getting to court right now, good luck. It's going to take 3 to 5 years because everything's backlogged. So if you want a fair payment quickly, then you come to ZipClaims, and listen, it's not appropriate for all cases. It's not appropriate for all claims. I'm not naive to that fact. And also the insurance company has to be willing to, participate in it. And if you need to litigate liability, then you're going to have to litigate it, right? But if you can put that aside and say, hey, let's just deal with damages, then which you can do in tons of cases, so that's really the goal. And my guess is you're probably going to ask, okay, well, how do we make any money if it's free? Which it is free to the claimants, and that's the incentive. Hey, here's an alternative. It's free. Come here. We're going to use data and analytics and our experience to say, hey, here's a reasonable range of what your case is worth. But we do charge the insurance companies for access to that individual, right? And it's a flat fee. And so it's a totally different model, but the fee that you pay us is like $3,500. The insurance company would pay us like $3,500. There's not a single case that, in my opinion, there's not a single case that the legal fees wouldn't be greater than $3,500.
Yeah, the first, I don't know, 10 hours of less than that. The first 8 hours of the cheapest lawyer's work, and
right,
you're over 3,500.
Right. And then you're dealing with cycle time, and then you're dealing with reserve. I mean, we all know how complex it all is. But this is the streamlined version, and this is the future, right? Every other industry, from mortgages, it has gone online to a platform that's much quicker, much more efficient. And listen, the lawyers kind of have the advantage in some respects because you have to be a lawyer in order to practice law. That's slowly changing, actually. There's some different things happening in Arizona where non-lawyers can own part of a law firm. Utah's got a regulatory sandbox that's kind of changing some of that. But I said, hey, I am a lawyer, so I don't need to worry about that issue. There's other questions that the regulators had about our structure, but it wasn't whether we were engaged in the unauthorized practice of law. So we were able to explain to them, hey, this is how it works, and craft it and design it so that it worked.
Okay. And not content with running two companies, decided to jump in for a third effort?
Well, they're all related. Like literally, I was sitting at conferences with Vortex Legal and said, okay, I got to solve this other problem. And that's what became ZipClaims. And then more recently, our Vortex Legal company has been doing a ton of depositions for an insurance company. And as I was looking at it, and it's for homeowners insurance, which there's only so many issues, generally speaking, there's only so many issues that can come up in a homeowner's claim. And I was like, we could apply and develop artificial intelligence and machine learning to this and supplement the attorney, help the attorney, conduct it with suggestions of questions to ask. We could even train new associates with this AI. And in the not so distant future, this AI could be a bot and conduct the deposition itself, And so that's what we started playing with. And we also added an additional component, which is actually getting a ton more traction than the other one, which is fine. You never know what's going to hit and what's not. But it's really taking deposition transcripts from carriers and doing the same thing that we were doing with the other ones, which was basically extracting all of the data, right, and putting it into structured formats. And we're doing that with expert witness testimony. And the idea is to build the first database that's across all insurance carriers that will tell you, if you want to look up an expert witness, you look them up, it'll show you the cases, the types of cases, what did they testify, what did they say, right? And it's incredibly valuable and important because carriers could use that testimony to basically impeach that expert, and basically, then they're not credible, right? And I think that one's catching on a lot more for the folks that we're talking to, and we were already like in talks with 4 or 5 major carriers, and I think that that's catching on because of the potential that it has to really help avoid and deter nuclear verdicts, and just the value that it brings to them. Even if it doesn't go to trial, it's incredibly valuable to have that information in preparation for the case. So yeah, I'm working on a lot of different projects, and this is what I love. I love doing this stuff. It's a lot more exciting than being a lawyer.
And what's the name of the depositions company?
DepoAI. So depoai.co. Yeah.
DepoAI. It's depoai.co. Gotcha. And this last one does sound very interesting. So I didn't spend enough time in claims to go all the way to a litigation type role. Never thought of the issue of expert witnesses. I have several connections that are expert witnesses, but yeah, and I never thought of how they're regulated. So how do we make sure that the expert witness is not just being a
hired gun?
Which
is what they are. I mean, they listen. They are hired guns. But the problem is
how do we keep them honest? Basically.
Right, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And you do need to keep them honest, and you need to make sure that they're consistent with what their testimony is. And that right now, I do know that folks are trying to do this manually, which is absurd. And if you think about one carrier trying to compile all of this information just for themselves, that's a huge task in and of itself, let alone saying, okay, now let's do it amongst all of the carriers or the top 20 carriers, right? So that's what we're setting out to do, which is really building that data hub so that anybody can come in and access a carrier-wide database, system for any and all expert witnesses. There's just incredible value there, and I think we're on to something great. So it's exciting.
How long do you think before? Well, are you digging into past data?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you could take your deposition transcripts from 15 years ago. I mean, so long as if the expert witness is still testifying, then it's valid. And you know, it's just unstructured data that you need to extract and organize and you know, put into structured ways and put queries in there. And listen, our data scientist guy, he's the one that really knows all that, right? It's not me. But it doesn't matter how old it is, we can get that information in there. You might even be able to use it to say, hey, this expert witness from 20 years ago on a similar topic, this is what they said. I don't know. You know, that's maybe, you know, you could use that as precedent, maybe, I don't know, you know, or at least to say, hey, how come this other doctor on similar circumstances came out with a different conclusion, you know? So there's a lot of use to it. And either, you know, either way, what's interesting, what I love is that, you know, I'm kind of at that intersection of legal, like you said at the beginning, between legal and insurance, but all in the tech space. And so it's always interesting because, you know, some people are like, oh, well, you're more legal tech, you know, basically the investors I've talked to in the past, if they don't like us because they focus on insure tech, they're like, you're too legal tech. And if they're legal tech, they're like, you're too insure tech. So, you know, there's people out there though that get it and are claims tech. Let's call it that.
Okay, I think coined here. I haven't heard of the word claims tech before.
Yeah.
Okay, so DepoAI is brand new. Is it full on operational, or you're currently building the database basically?
Yeah, so DepoAI right now we've got a pilot going with one carrier where we're literally, you know, processing about 5,000 transcripts, and then, you know, we're building the user interface at the same time. And then we've got, like I said, a number of carriers that we're also talking to about that, and so those look very positive.
Okay.
So still early.
Who is the client at a carrier? Is it the chief of claims, or is it the chief legal, or is it on the IT side? Like who's probably the best person to
yeah, it's really across the board. I mean, sometimes it's claims innovation, sometimes it's, you know, a claims manager, claims director. Certainly I've talked with many of folks that are high up in litigation management. You know, it runs the gamut, you know, but those are the usual suspects.
Okay. And if a listener is trying to run into you in person at a conference this year, assuming that we do have such a thing as in-person conferences.
I know, right?
Are you going to be at CLM or PLRB, at Connected Claims?
Yeah, but we're still figuring that out, to be honest. You know, I've been to CLM for years. I've been at ITC 3 times. So, but the easiest way to reach me would be through, you know, one of our websites.
Perfect. Then when this goes live, I'll tag you on LinkedIn,
Awesome.
which I've got to say, 20,000 followers for almost 21,000 for a lawyer is thoroughly impressive.
I know all of them.
So you've been doing something right when it comes to growing your LinkedIn. So I'll tag your LinkedIn, get you some more followers when it goes live.
Great.
And I'll include the website for the different companies. And thank you for the explanation.
No, thank you.